Hey, family. This is Mama T, talking sharp after dark. Good evening, good night, good morning, depending on where you are from. I'm coming to you tonight because I have some educational information that I would like to share with you. If you're anything like me, you may have some questions pertaining to, you would like to say. Well, this is based on being that everyone is following the Nolan Wells story, and you see all the updates, and you noticing new things is coming up, popping up, and everything, and people are chiming in on it from everywhere across the world, just everywhere. One of the things that stuck out to me was for me, and I was at a standstill for a minute until now that I got more information. Finally, the beautiful family of Nolan Wells, have met the DA along with Ben Crump. And when they came out of that meeting, Ben Crump announced that they got a little bit of clarity of the process and how this thing worked. And I'm sitting there listening, watching at the edge of my seat. And I'm like, how does it really work? What is going on? So I'm thinking to myself, oh, what is it that I really truly don't know that we're talking about a grand jury? So that's a good thing, right? Or is that a bad thing? And then when I'm hearing snippets of information from other YouTube channels pertaining to it, it made me to want to go and research. So I gathered my team and I told my team what I was thinking about. And I said, I got to do some research. And they got with me. We sat at the round table, got our notebooks and pens out, and pulled up the encyclopedia and all that good stuff, dictionary and everything else. And we started searching because, thank you God, I have not been in the midst of the life of had to know about grand juries or public hearing or anything other like that. So these things is kind of foreign to me, and maybe I'm not the only one in this world. Some things might be a little foreign. So I started looking up some stuff and jotting things down on my notes and putting everything in perspective. And what I found in my research for the help with my team that helped me put everything together, I came to the conclusion to sit here and get you guys to understand what I understood. And let me just say this once again. This is educational purposes. Don't dot my I's or cross my T's. This is what the research that we found, and I'm just putting it out there because we need to be prepared for when the DA come out with whatever the finding is, and when the grand jury say their final statement, whatever it is that they're going to say, we need to be prepared whether it's going to be good or it's not going to be good. And after we finish reading off the things that I found, I'm going to tell you how I feel. But the first thing I would like to read off to you is when I pulled up this information, and this is what I asked. How the grand jury process work? That was the first question that came to mind. How does that work? I keep hearing everybody talking about grand jury. So how does it work? So as I was reading, and then I'm going to tell you my thought at the end of that part. But this is what it says. A grand jury is a group of citizens conveyed by a court to review evidence presented by a prosecutor and decide whether there is enough probable cause to formally charge someone with a serious crime. It is not a trial jury. It does not determine guilt or innocence, only whether to issue an indictment for a felony. The purpose of constitutional basis, the grand jury system is rooted in the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which requires a grand jury indictment for federal felony charges. It main, its main purposes are protect citizens from unfounded or politically motivated prosecutions, or act as a check on prosecutorial power by requiring independent citizens' review before serious charges are filed. Composition. Federal grand juries, it normally holds between 16 to 23 members, selected at random from voter registration lists. And the state grand juries, that size and selections, it varies by jurisdiction. Jurors serve for up to 18 months, appearing in court a few days a month. Secrecy and procedure. Grand jury proceedings are closed to the public to protect witnesses and the accused's reputation. The room is typically composed of prosecution, U.S. attorney or state prosecutor, court reporter, grand jurors, witnesses. No defense attorney or judge is present. I did not know that. The prosecutor presents evidence and testimony, often include hearsay or other evidence not admissible at trial, and may ask questions of witnesses. Standard of proof. The standard is probable cause, not beyond a reasonable doubt. A majority of jurors, 12 out of 23 in federal cases, must agree to indict. So get that part. A majority of jurors, 12 out of 23 in a federal case, must agree to indict. Okay. Possible outcomes. Indictment, which is called true bill. Formal charges are filed, leading to arraignment and possible trial. Number two, no indictment, that means no bill. So when you hear the word no bill, that means no indictment. True bill, that means indictment. Okay. The case is dismissed at this stage. And number three, no prosecution. Prosecutors voluntarily drop the case. So there is three of them, possible outcomes. One is indictment, true bill. Two is no indictment, no bill. And three is no prosecute. Can't pronounce that last word. Prosequi. Figure that out. Prosecutors voluntarily drop the case. That's number three. After indictment, if indicted, the accused appears in court, enters a plea, and the case proceeds to trial before a petty jury, which is a trial jury. Isn't that something? I did not know that either. Key difference from a trial jury. Role. Grand jury decides if charges should be filed. Trial jury decides guilt or innocence. Confidentiality is grand jury proceedings are secret. Trial juries are public. Evidence rule. More flexible in grand jury settings, stricter at trial. In short, the grand jury is a citizen-led filter between the government and individuals, ensuring that serious criminal charges are only brought when there is credible evidence and sufficient cause to proceed. That's what I read. Okay? And from that, it led me to more questions. How does this affect the Nolan Wells case? How would this affect this family of getting fair treatment and justice for Nolan Wells? So from doing that, got with my team. And the team went to work. They came back to me and told me to get my notebook and pads. I got my notebook and pad, and they said start jotting down. So as I started jotting down the notes and reading everything that they presented, and they started explaining to me what they found out, I said, whoa. Now, being that I'm an OG, I always like to put out there to people that we like to know our past so we can be better at our future. Well, I'm getting ready to walk that same mile myself because in order for we to understand where we are today, we need to go back. So in going back, we're going to go back first and foremost and find out what is a grand jury, why was it even created, where did it first started from, why is it here, and why are we exercising it? Is that a fair question? Because when we ask things like that, it'll make you end up realizing there is something that might need to be changed in today's world. And I got some educational information for you guys that blew my wig off. And we get ready to talk about it. Can we talk about it? Huh, fam? Well, let's talk about it. Meanwhile, like, click, subscribe, leave a comment because we can go further with this. And I might decide to go live later on tonight or tomorrow, but we need to talk about this because I truly think by the time I finish reading this all to you guys, and forgive me if I mispronounce any words incorrect because I've been talking all day, so I'm kind of tongue tied at this point. But you bear with me. We won, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is where we're gonna start off. Listen to this. The grand jury system originated in 12th century England under King Henry II. It was created to centralize royal power and take control of the justice system away from the Catholic Church. The system evolved through two distinct historical phases. It said two. So right now I'm getting ready to give you one. The Assize of Clarendon, 1166, strengthening the king's power. King Henry II issued a royal decree called the Assize of Clarendon. Before this, criminal accusations were handled by local lords or thorough trial by ordeal, such as surviving a physical test like holding a hot iron. Why it was created? The king wanted to consolidate his power across England. He ordered that a panel of 12 lawful men in every knight's fee and town be sworn under oath to report any local individuals suspected of committing crimes. Also, the original purpose, this early version was not designed to protect the accused. It was a tool of the crown to uncover criminals, collect fines, and assert royal law over the entire country. The second one is the Magna Carta and the evolution into a shield 1215 and 1681. Over time, the grand jury shifted from being a tool of the king to a protector of ordinary citizens against government overreach. Why it changed? King John abused his power, leading English nobles to force him to sign the Magna Carta in 1215, which established that the crown could not imprison citizens without due process. The turning point was in 1681. The grand jury's modern role as a shield was consummated in 1681 during the trials of Stephen College, and the Earl of whatever his last name is. King Charles II wanted them executed for treason. Because of their political beliefs, a grand jury met in secret, reviewed the king's weak evidence, and refused to indict them. This established the grand jury as an independent barrier that could stop political or malicious prosecutions. And y'all not going to believe this as I go on. And who decided to adopt into this grand jury situation? The United States. Yep. Check this out. Americans colonists adopted the grand jury system because they mistrusted the British royal prosecutors. They saw the grand jury as a way for local citizens to block unfair British laws. Following the American Revolution, the founders valued this protection so much that they wrote it directly into the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Let that soak in. It states that no person can be tried for a serious federal crime unless a grand jury first reviews the evidence and issue an indictment. Today, the U.S. is one of the only nations that will still use the grand jury system, as England abolished it in 1948. Let that sit. If you're, I'm sorry. So, 32 states have completely eliminated the requirement for grand juries in local criminal cases, replacing them with a streamlined system known as preliminary hearings in the U.S. Did y'all know that? 32 states completely eliminated it. But you know it's more states in the United States, right? 32 of them eliminated totally. Check this out. States have moved away from grand juries for three major operational and systematic reasons. Here go one of them. One of them was the high financial costs and administrative burden is one reason. The second one is a lack of true defense rights was the other reason. And the third one was absolute discretion by the U.S. Supreme Court. So let's go back into the first one. High financial costs. The reason why they took it away. It was because maintaining a grand jury is incredibly expensive for local county budgets. The costs: counties must pay for jury stipends, travel, meals, and security over weeks or months, depending on how long it's going to take. The logistic prosecutors must constantly pull citizens away from their jobs to sit on panels, creating massive administrative backlog. A preliminary hearing, by contrast, takes just a few hours in front of a single judge. So it seemed like it was cheaper and feasible to do it the opposite way than to do it like this. Okay? Number two, lack of the true defense rights. They call that the rubber stamp problem. Legal experts widely criticize local grand juries for being a rubber stamp for the prosecution. No defense allowed in a grand jury room. Let that sink in. No defense allowed in a grand jury room. The defense attorney is barred from entering. No cross examination of witnesses occurs. And the rules of evidence are highly relaxed. The alternative, most states prefer preliminary hearings, which are held in an open court. Which are held in an open court. During these hearings, the defense attorney is present, can challenge the policy's evidence, and a neutral judge decides if there is enough probable cause to proceed to trial. This is viewed as much fairer and more transparent test of the state's evidence. But no, grand jury is the way they want to go. And number three, that absolute discretion by the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, the U.S. Constitution's Fifth Amendment requires a grand jury for federal crimes, but the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the landmark 1884 case, Hurtado versus California, Hurtado, that this rule does not apply to state or local governments because the federal government never forced states to use grand juries. Individual state legislators were free to design faster and cheaper and more transparent methods to charge people with local crimes. So the contrast, why Mississippi, and in case you was trying to calculate the numbers, 17 other states kept it. Did you hear what I say? Why did Mississippi and 17 other states kept it? Because 32 of it did away with it. They didn't want no parts of it. They prefer to have a hearing and it be open and it's transparent and it's more fair. But 18 states decided they want to keep it. So here we go. Check this out. In these states, only 18 states, including Mississippi, still legally mandate a grand jury indictment for all local capital crimes and felonies. In these states, it acts as a political and social buffer. But as seen in cases like Nolan Wells, it can also be used by local prosecutors to shield themselves from public backlash when dealing with highly sensitive or racially charged community investigations. The 18 states that legally mandate a grand jury indictment before a prosecutor can move forward with any standard felony charge. You want to know what those 18 states are? Y'all want to know? I was curious, so I pulled it up. Yes, I did, fam. Because these leprechauns got game. Yeah, we're going to have to pull up one day the definition, characteristics of a leprechaun, because they rolling all through the United States. So the 18 states are Alabama, Alaska, Delaware, Georgia, Kentucky, Maine, Massachusetts, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. That's your 18, baby. 18. 32 of them said, no, we're not going to do that to the people. 18 said, yes, we're going to do that to the people. Why? So let me just read some of this thing to you that also intrigued my mind even more. Protection of local elite and family ties. Yes, I'm going there. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter stated early on that his office has no reason to suspect foul play. Y'all remember that? I do. I think that's where everything started. Bad enough, the family haven't heard from nobody, and then you want to come out with you suspect no foul play? Okay, got you. Leprechaun. Which heavily influences how evidence is collected. So by saying that, it heavily influences how the evidence is going to be collected. So that's a hidden code. When he made that announcement, it already influenced how any evidence, if any, is going to be collected. Because it got to represent what he said. Get it? Hint, hint. Furthermore, one of the teens on the boat with Nolan is the son of Ashley Cole. She's a judge, right? When individuals under scrutiny belong to prominent legal and or affluent families in a community, local law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges often show immense hesitation to treat the case as a criminal investigation, let alone execute arrests. That little portion right there blew my mind. Let that soak in. So passing the buck to avoid political fallout, because that too plays a factor. By declaring that the case will automatically be given to a grand jury, the district attorney deflects immediate pressure. In Mississippi, prosecutors frequently use the grand jury as a political shield. If the grand jury returns a no bill, remember back to that true bill, no bill, remember that? Okay. So, if the grand jury returns a no bill, which means refuse to indict, the DA and the sheriff can tell the public, we tried, but a jury of citizens decided there wasn't enough evidence. This protects the DA from the political consequences of prosecuting well-connected local residents. Did y'all hear that? This protects the DA from the political consequence of prosecuting well-connected local residents. What well-connected local residents? You mean like a judge and doctors and lawyers? Oh my. Is that what we're talking about? Check this one out. What about the absolute grand jury secrecy? Cloak the truth. That's what it does. Listen to this. Mississippi grand jury proceedings are entirely secret. There is no judge present, no defense lawyers, and the media and public are barred from the room because the sheriff's department is leading the file creation. They and the DA control exactly what evidence or lack thereof is shown to the grand jurors. If local authorities are resistant, they can present a weak, superficial case behind closed doors, ensuring no charges are filed, while keeping the public completely blind to how the decision was made. Yeah, let that swallow right on down your throat. Yep, you're on point. You got that. So overcoming the standard procedure, which we call like excuse. Check this one out. Authorities are framing the grand jury referral as standard procedure. This is standard procedure for any unnatural death in Jackson County. However, as civil rights attorney, thank you, God, Ben Crump noted following his meeting with the DA, Mississippi's history shows that the deaths of black individuals are rarely pursued with the same rigor as white victims, treating it as a as a routine administrative process, minimizing the highly suspicious circumstances, such as Nolan's keys and his cell phone being left behind with other teens, and the conflicting stories regarding why he stayed on the island. Thank God that Ben Crump is still standing 10 toes down on that, and he's going to keep saying it, and as he should. So, how the family's going to fight this lack of transparency? Because there's a whole lot of lack of this transparency. Well, okay, so let's go through this rabbit hole and see what we can find to help, and hope somebody can hear this. And to be honest with you, I believe that they're already doing some of these things. Okay. Recognizing the resistance from local Mississippi officials, the Wells family and their local team are using specific strategies to bypass local bias. Independent investigation is one of them. The family has bypassed local police to hire their own independent forensic and law enforcement experts to review the evidence. Independent autopsy, because the state autopsy finding and toxicology reports can be heavily delayed or downplayed by state coroners, the family commissioned a private independent autopsy to check for physical trauma. Thank God for that. And don't forget, if you want to be the type of person to go around looking at deceased and figuring out what's wrong, what happened to the body, all you need is a high school diploma and take up a couple of courses, and boom, you in there. In case you didn't know, because I didn't. Forced technology audits. The family's team successfully forced a agreement for a mutual inspection of Noel's cell phone. This allows external experts to look for deleted messages or altered data at the exact same time as the local law enforcement, preventing authorities from burying digital evidence. So they have a strategy going on here, and thank God that they do. Under Mississippi law, the Wells family and their attorneys cannot directly present evidence. That's the law in Mississippi. So Ben Crump can't be there. Got it? Let me just make sure you understand that. Under Mississippi law, the Wells family and their attorneys cannot directly present evidence to a grand jury. Legally, only the prosecutor, which is the DA, is allowed to enter the grand jury room to present witnesses and evidence. Did y'all get that? Only the prosecutor, which is the DA, is allowed to enter the grand jury room to present witnesses and evidence. However, civil rights attorney Ben Crump and the Wells family have engineered a strategic legal workaround by utilizing public pressure. Please do continue. They forced the district attorney to integrate their independent findings directly into the state's case before it reaches the grand jury. Their independent evidence will be factored into the grand jury presentation through the following mechanism. The joint technology audit, which is the cell phone data, the family previously raised alarms that text messages and social media data had been erased from Nolan's phone before it was returned to them. Y'all remember that, right? To prevent to prevent local law enforcement from ignoring this, Ben Crump secured an unconventional agreement for a mutual inspection of the cell phone. That was smart, very smart. How how it gets to the jury? Well, the family's independent tech experts are working directly alongside investigators in the district attorney's office to retrieve deleted data. Because it is a joint audit, any recovered digital evidence must legally be made part of the official investigative file that the DA presents to the grand jury. So they on it. They so far they on it to me. The independent autopsy finding. The official state autopsy by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner remains pending toxicology results because state-run labs can be slow and protective of local narratives. The family had an independent autopsy performed themselves. How it gets to the jury? Well, once the independent medical examiner finishes documenting any physical trauma or discrepancies, Ben Crump's team will formally hand the report over to the district attorney's Angel, whatever her last name is. The DA is then legally obligated to consider it. The DA is then legally obligated to consider it. If the DA refuses to show a conflicting private autopsy to the grand jury, it would provide grounds for the family to accuse the office of prosecutorial misconduct. So, submitting the independent investigation file, the family's private investigators have been gathering witness statement and tracking GPS data from the boat trip to Horn Island. And that's why we're seeing a lot of that information on YouTube now, because they bringing all that out because this is what's going on, right? How it gets to the jury, the family will package all their independent findings into a comprehensive brief and submit it directly to the DA's office. Attorney Ben Crump publicly emphasized that the core objective of their meeting with the DA was to ensure that all relevant witnesses and evidence will be presented to them so the grand jury can make an impartial decision. Now, the danger part of this whole thing, okay? Let's talk about that, because so far it seemed like Ben Crump he on it, and thank God that he is. The DA remains the gatekeeper. That's the dangerous part. The DA remains the gatekeeper. Note to self. The DA remains the gatekeeper, y'all. While the Wells family is successfully forcing their evidence into official file, the DA still controls the presentation. The family cannot stop a resistant prosecutor from presenting their independent evidence weekly. And when I say weekly, I'm talking about weekly, weekly. So it's not just that she present this stuff, but depending on how she present the evidence, she can present it weekly, and she can obsolete some things out, and but mention it a little bit. Trickery, leprechauns. Here we go. Framing it as unreliable or failing to call the family's expert witnesses to testify in person. This is why the family is keeping national civil rights leaders, the FBI, and media heavily involved to ensure the DA does not bury the independent findings behind closed doors because it can happen. And the reason why, because she is the gatekeeper. So, how the FBI's involvement changes the digital evidence timeline? Well, the FBI Jacksonville office is officially joined the investigation, has officially joined. Yes, they did. We all know that. While local law enforcement, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office retains lead authority on the ground. The FBI technical resources dramatically alter how the digital evidence timeline will unfold. Bypassing local deletion obstacles, the Wells family legal team, led by Ben Crump, raised serious flags regarding deleted text messages and social media content on Nolan's phone. While local Mississippi tech labs might lack the advanced tools, or the political will to recover wiped data, the FBI's regional computer forensic laboratories process Tier 1 scraping tools that can pull data directly from physical memory chips and cloud backups. Federal subpoena power of tech giants. The FBI can immediately bypass the local district attorney to issue federal grand jury subpoenas directly to Apple, Snapchat, Meta, and cell service providers. This forces these companies to hand over unedited server side data, message logs, and location metadata. This completely takes the timeline out of the hand of local authorities who might wish to drag their feet. You remember that statement? We will not be rushed. Here we go. The interstate threats leverage. Officially, the FBI entered the case to investigate interstate threats directed at individuals connected to the case. However, in civil rights matters, the FBI frequently uses an auxiliary threat investigation as a foot in the door. It allows federal agents to legally seize, clone, and analyze the phones of the other teams on the boat, mapping out an unalterable digital timeline of the 4th of July event. So, let's just say the worst case scenario happens. What would be Ben Crump's strategic plan then? In case that might go through your mind, it went through mine. So, let's talk about it for a little bit. Strategic steps. If the local grand jury returns a no bill, well, let's check it out. If the local Jackson County grand jury returns a no bill, meaning they refuse to issue criminal indictments, the state level criminal case against the well connected individuals effectively ends. Yep, you heard it. The state level criminal case against the well connected individuals effectively ends. However, there's a but. The Wells family has several powerful legal and federal pathways to bypass a biased local system. Right? And this is only based on if there is a no bill. They can appeal to Mississippi Attorney General. They can petition U.S. DOJ, federal civil rights prosecution as a hate crime law, or they can file a wrongful death civil lawsuit. So they can do 1, 2, or 3, right? Well, let's break it down and see what the 1, 2, and 3 might constitute of. Because we want to know. We following this family and we got their back and we want to understand so that way maybe we can stay at bay and watch how things unfold and we all just continue to pray that things, just work well throughout the family and others. Demand the state attorney general appoint a special prosecutor. Under Mississippi law, a no bill prevents the current DA from moving forward on those exact presentation terms. However, the family can formally petition Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch to take the case completely away from Jackson County. The Attorney General has the authority to appoint an independent, out of district special prosecutor to review the independent autopsy and present a brand new file to an entirely different grand jury pool. That's one thing that it could do. The second one is escalate to a federal civil right prosecution, which is double jeopardy, does not apply between state and federal courts. So this is not double jeopardy. It is not. If a local Mississippi grand jury refuses to act, the family's primary recourse is the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, civil rights decision. What they could do with that? The strategy is Ben Crump can hand over the independent autopsy results and recovered digital evidence to federal prosecutors to prove a violation. I'm sorry, a violation of federal civil rights laws or federal hate crime statutes. The preceded the preceded, this mirrors the legal strategy used in the Ahmaud Arbery case. Y'all remember that case? Where local judge prosecutors initially refused to make arrests, but the federal intervention ultimately forced accountability? Yeah, I remember that. That's the option of that from number two. Or number three, they could file a civil wrongful death lawsuit. And what that means, a grand jury only decides on criminal charges. The Wells family can immediately file a civil wrongful death lawsuit against the individuals on the boat and any parties involved. Now, what that does, it lower burden of proof. Criminal cases require proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil cases only require a preponderance of the evidence, proving it is more likely than not that the defendants caused harm. Forced deposition, a civil lawsuit stripes the local elite of their secrecy. A civil lawsuit, strips the local elite of their secrecy. Local elite of their secrecy? The family's attorneys can force the teens, their parents, including local judge and local investigators, to sit for record depositions under oath, creating a public record of the contradictions in their stories. Interesting. The grand jury system is definitely in the palms of this DA hands. And this is what we're dealing with. So, being educated from that, and this is just educational purposes only, entertainment, and those are my notes of what I read, what I found, and I put it in my own writing so I can explain to you guys in case anyone may have a question. And forgive me with my coughing, I'm still getting over my cold, but I wanted to share this information with you because it took me for a loop. And when I sit back and I look at how things are unfolding as it is now, it makes me leery on the outcome. All we could do at this point is pray. I know that the family is sending their child home permanently. The funeral will be on Monday, and that is a going home celebration. I do believe, I think it's between 9 and 11 or something other like that on Monday. Yes, I will be following it. Um, Nolan has been loved from so many people that don't even know him. Just hearing the story and how things unfold, how can you not? So yeah, I'm gonna follow it, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk about it. And meanwhile, while we do that, we're gonna also keep in mind because once they finish with the funeral and everything, this is when everything really comes into play, and that's for the family. But for all of us, as we're still concerned and hoping that things go well for the family, we too out here in this world got family, little family members, little peoples, whether you want to call them the millenniums, Gen X, Gen Zs, the alphas, whatever you want to call them, we must continue to educate our young people, guard them with enough tools. If you got to play skits at home, give them scenarios. Please, by all means, do that. Okay? And you want to also teach them the writings on the wall, what to be careful for, and how to listen to their inner soul when something feel queasy in their stomach and they cannot quite put their finger on it, but it's telling them maybe you need to go home. Go home. Then do that. Call your mom or your dad. Then do that. Please. Because this world, the way that we're living in at this point, I don't know anymore. But we got to continue to protect, guard, give them tools and instructions, and pray over all our children. Everybody. That's for everybody. And we need to start loving one another. How can one say that they love God but they hate their brother? Because we all came from God. And if you believe that we all did not come from God, then you must don't have God within you. Because you just took something away from God, and He is the creator of all things. All. Everything. From the chair you sit on, to the table you lean on, to the wall you look at, to the human that's standing right next to you. Everything. God created everything and everyone. So how can you say you love God, but you hate your brother? That would be the question of the day for me. Asking these other folks out here that some I may call leprechauns. Because people got a lot of tricksters going on. It's a lot of games, and it's been going on for many years. All the way back from England. All the way back to the British. All the way back to when America adopted the law. And then you're using it on people that we all live in the same United States. None of this make any sense. And why is it that some people still believe that they're better than other people? What the hell is wrong with you guys? And growing up, being raised, haven't your parents told you about never ever to go around thinking you better than the next person? Nor should you be thinking you're worse than the next person. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying this is a race thing, but I'm not ruling it out either. It's too much in our face, guys, to take out it can't be a race thing. It's too much. It's been going on too many years. For so long. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. That's my take. Like, subscribe, click, follow me, guys. It is time that we pull ourselves together and we be as one and we stand up for one another. This is something that we need to do. Like our life depend upon it. So please, by all means, let's stand together, my people. All of us. Let's stop fighting one another. All of us. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not keep giving out olive branches. No, that's not what I'm doing. Because you're not going to sit there and smile in my face and You put a Jagger in my back at the same time. No, thank you. Now y'all don't even do it in the back. Y'all doing it right in your face, and we watching it right live on TV, on the news, on this, and then we supposed to take that. I said I was gonna stop, didn't I? Okay. Yep, I'm gonna stop right here. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if need be, we go live. We could talk about it, and if you be about it, we can be about it. Yeah. Alrighty, fam. Enjoy your night, and this is where we at. Thank you. Talking Sharp After Dark, and I'm signing out.